Welcome to the Kiwimana Buzz.
Hi everyone, this is Gary here from the Kiwimana Buzz, and this is episode number 30. And this is a show where we talk about beekeeping, gardening and life, and we chat about how to keep bees, how to look after your garden, and we also discuss news and get tips and tricks from around the world by interviewing different beekeepers and gardeners from around the world. And this week we have a special guest, Paul Barry. He runs a honey company called Sanctuary Honey. He also runs a meadery called Sting Mead. And he was kind enough to give a couple of hours of his time a couple of weeks back. And we actually went out to his honey packing facility to have a talk to him. So just bear with us with the noise, because there was a couple of issues with the noise happening. He's quite near the airport too, so we had a few planes fly over. The other thing was, what went wrong is our sound recorder wasn't up to the job, so we ended up recording this on Paul's actual Apple iPhone, so that turned out not too bad. We are saving up for some new recording equipment to do on-site interviews, and we'd really like to make this more of a part of the show, so we can actually get out there and get out of the studio and actually meet people and and interview them. So that would be great. Yeah, so if you he does mention a few good books and good resources in the interview, and we've got some links on the show notes for this episode about those books and resources. And the show notes for this podcast will be kiwimana.co.nz/30. So yeah, please check out the show notes. And if you're listening to this somewhere else, we're at kiwimana.co.nz. And cheers, guys, and thanks for listening.
Yes, so hi, Paul.
Okay.
We're here with Paul today. And so how did you get started in beekeeping?
Just by default, really, I have had a real passion and still do for sustainable, authentic living. And I bought a large lifestyle block in the sunny Coromandel, and as a part of that, I put in a huge big heritage tree orchard in the permaculture model. And as I went more and more into investigating and planning that, which was a 2-year project, I realised that I needed bees to pollinate the fruit. And I ended up getting my first 5 beehives in August of 2007. And by the January of 2007, I had 80. I'd split them all, and I bought a couple more from the same guy.
Yeah.
And I'd gone through harvest and basically just done my own commercial standard queen rearing right from the start, totally self-taught, just read lots of books and had a natural flair for it, grafted all my own queen cells, and in that second year we went through with 80 hives, and then that just increased and increased. And of course, being a bit of a nut job, I went certified organic right from the start. So I bought all certified organic beeswax frames and built my hives in accordance with organic standards, and normally there's a 3-year delay period to be able to be officially certified as an organic beekeeping practice. And I think I had mine in 1.5 or year 2, just because we were a start-up and had done everything correct right from the get-go.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So when you say organic frames, what do you mean by that? Just you don't PVA them and stuff like that?
Well, no, the beeswax is the main contributor because of the fat solubility of the chemical components that, the conventional beekeepers use to control varroa.
Yeah.
And all of the products of the bee comes from their body. The honey's ingested and then replaced into the beeswax, and the beeswax comes from the bee's body. Everything is contaminated, basically, to some extent with the chemical components. The beeswax does get a huge build-up over time, and depending on how crusty the old beekeepers were, whether they had used PDB and stuff like this in their beekeeping storage practices, some of the beeswax is really quite contaminated, particularly with Apistan, which is, of course, 200 times stronger than even the, most gentle chemical of Baverol. So we had to buy and utilise certified organic beeswax in our frames. And you can use plastic frames. A lot of the organic beekeepers do. There's probably about 10 organic beekeepers I know of at a commercial scale in New Zealand. And we're one of about I would say we're one of about 4 of the main ones that specialise in producing active organic Manuka honey. So we order custom frames with an organic Manuka special foundation, which means the foundation's much thicker than the standard one because it's being used for Manuka. When the bees draw out a standard frame, it doesn't really have the strength in its first year to be pricked and spun. Quite often the frames will break, especially when they have 3 wires. So we get custom-made frames with 4 wires, and then where each wire goes through the hole in the wood, because we like wooden frames, the bees prefer them a million times over a plastic frame.
Yeah.
We put a staple right on the hole and then thread the wire over the staple, so under tension, when it's spinning in the centrifuge, and there's a huge weight of Manuka honey in the actual comb that needs a lot of force to actually centrifuge out. The wires don't cut into the wood and the actual frame doesn't slop. Otherwise you would end up with frames breaking and stuff like this.
Yeah, we have a similar issue.
Like we only use one plastic frame in a beehive, and it'll be in the brood box, and it'll be next to an emergency feeder if we have to feed honey or organic sugar during the year.
Yeah.
And we only do that simply because the bees will join a beeswax frame to the feeder, and when you rip it off, if it's a beeswax cord frame, it kind of rips the guts out of it and can get quite messy. So we put a plastic one next to the feeder, and all the rest we run 35mm full depth frames.
Yeah.
We like full depth frames. They're not so good for your back, but I like everything to be interchangeable.
Yeah.
So I like to be able to use brood frames, and quite often we would put new honey frames into a brood box just for, a week or a couple of months, just to get a few lays in there so that they varnish the beeswax just with a slight strength, and then whack them back up to the honey supers, and they'll last forever up there. Fresh is always best, and it's really important to always be cycling the brood frames and never let them get to the state where they're black and manky and stinky and you can't see through. It's not good, with the qualities of medical honey these days. You really need to be providing the cleanest, most authentic product you can.
So do you cycle your brood frames through every couple of years or something?
Yeah, we end up just anything that's a bit dodgy, we pull them out. And, we use a lot of new frames all the time because we're continually expanding our business.
Yeah.
And bees won't draw out worker comb unless there's a flow on. So, you've got to be really kind of fastidious and when you're putting boxes on and how you're doing it. And a lot of beekeepers go through and they'll rip all the drone comb out of the boxes, and then that just means that the queen will make, or the bees will make drone comb between the frames and join all the boxes together. You've got to give them a certain amount, probably about 1/5 of a frame, to keep a good balance of drones in the hive. And it's like it's like a happy home. If there's not enough drones, you can feel them stressed.
Yeah.
If there's too many, they're just freeloading and the hive isn't working to its full potential. So if you have damaged frames, it's good to chuck, which are all worker, it's good to chuck them in just before the flow when you're just getting a trickle in. They'll draw them out, but predominantly in drone. But if you stick empty frames into a hive without a flow on, it's literally build it all out into drone or they won't even touch them.
Yeah. So do you do any drone management at all?
We do. Last year we experimented with it, but it was pretty fickle. The bees won't always do what you want. Some bees will draw out a frame, boom, no worries. Others won't touch them. They'll draw a little bit out and then they're full of honey.
Yeah, I've had that.
It's pretty hit and miss, but the ones that do work, it does work.
I think it depends on what time it is in the season.
Yeah.
And you get different results.
Yeah. And, for a hive to draw out a full depth frame of drone comb without a flow on, it's got to be really close to the build-up, and they've got to be stonking big, or they just don't have the manpower to do it. It's just too much of a drain on their resources.
Yeah.
You've got to put it on the edge of the brood nest so they won't even look at it. And it just drops the temperature of the hive and just causes a lot more stress than they need, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you didn't need to do it, it would be good, but it is a good management tool when it works. But I
think it's sort of a partial thing, like a little thing you can do.
I've been experimenting with the idea of just getting a whole lot of 3/4 depth frames and like whacking 1/3/4 depth frame into the brood box.
Yeah.
And of course they would draw out that end, because they like it when it's free flow for drone. So they would draw that, but it would stick to the bottom top of the next frame down. And of course, when you crack the box, you'd have to smoke and scrape it off, and you couldn't always tell if it was going to be capped and fully ready. So, but they definitely would draw it out a lot more effectively.
Yeah, they do. They do tend to leave a gap anyway, even if you do put a 3/4 on it by mistake. I've found.
Yeah. And the way we have open mesh floor bases, the mesh is always slightly concave, and if they're going to build drone, they'll actually build it in the bottom box, hanging down, and that's just super easy. Just like tilt the box back, scrape it off, and you can see what you're doing.
Yeah, I like your base balls. I'll have to we'll try and take a photo if you're allowed.
I've got some really good ones, and anyone is welcome to copy the design. It's I invented it. It works really well, and
it's kind of similar to ours, but it's sort of just a bit higher. Yeah, a little higher.
Yeah, we did all sorts. We tried with like a 50 mil, whatever that would be, an 80 mil, and 100 mil. We tried a 4x2, 6x2, and an 8x2, and the 6x2 was the happy medium.
Yeah, no, that's good. And so, are your bees mainly Coromandel, or they're all over the North? They're everywhere, aren't they?
We're based in Coromandel. We do take them into Northland, though, just before the honey flow. But it's really hard to build bees up there, and it's a whole different animal. Like, all the guys up there run single brood boxes, queen excluder, single box.
Oh, okay.
And then they all harvest the single box continually, like every week or every second week.
Yeah.
Whereas being in Coromandel, we have a much shorter, sharper flow.
Yeah.
So we have to time it right. So you've got 2 boxes of bees boiling over, like absolutely mothered, the second that the honey flow starts. And it usually starts anywhere between the 1st of November and about the 15th of November.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much like clockwork, except for last year. It was a bit funky. It was a few weeks late.
Yeah. It went longer last year too, did it?
Yeah, and then it went longer. And then there's a huge... And the Manuka didn't flow at all last year. And then the Kanuka came on. It was like a 1 in 100 year Kanuka flow. It was just ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
So it made up for it, but... nature's getting so unpredictable. You've got to be really flexible and read the signs and...
Yeah, don't look at a calendar.
I don't know. Yeah. or the weather forecast.
Yeah, it's kind of like a rough guide, isn't it? But it's not really what's happening.
And every year is so different. Like, you can't even... Like, as a beekeeper, I look back. I haven't had one year the same. Like, maybe in a 40-year beekeeping career, you might be able to think, oh, this is kind of similar to many years ago, but at the moment, it's just a total crapshoot. You do your best and be as flexible as you can, and if your hives are too big, man, you got to split them, put new boxes on.
You do,
or you're just going to lose. Like, we don't hardly lose any bees to swarming. Like, we're really, really onto it. And I'm on the mindset I would rather split everything and then just before the flow, whack them all back together into huge, massive hives. Like, last year we had some hives which were 3 brood boxes deep, which was just ridiculous.
Yeah,
and, you'd chuck the queen excluder under the top brood box, make sure the queen was in the bottom. And even when the flow starts, I quite often, if I can find the queen, I'll whack her in the bottom box and hit an excluder on that. Then over the next 6 to 8 weeks, everything will hatch out and I'll fill the whole lot up with honey and then winter down on it. But, when you've got a massive amount of bees and you're going into the flow, you don't want to be continually generating more and more and more and more bees, because by the time you harvest, you've just got so many bees and, they've got nothing to do.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like build them up to the right amount and then sort of like just manage the volume.
Yeah, because you've got to like manage the population so you don't get them starve either over winter.
Yeah, exactly. And being organic's really hard because, you've got to be leaving enough honey on, and you've got to have honey to feed, and only in emergencies do you really feed sugar syrup. It's got to be there as a backstop. It's not like a normal commercial beekeeping operation where it's the status quo.
Yeah.
And at least it's certified organic actual sugar and not some sort of dodgy fructose corn syrup. I wonder all the bees overseas are dying. Corn is poison.
I don't know, it's shocking, eh? And they feed cows it as well, don't they?
Yeah, of course. There's a whole. We watched an amazing movie called The Omnivore's Delight, a book,
Yeah.
and it's just incredible. 80% of everything in the United States is corn derived. Everything in the supermarket, it's like there's nothing that isn't.
Yeah.
Even the bread's got corn syrup in it.
Yeah, I think they even use it in soft drinks, don't they?
Oh, even MSG is a derivative of corn. It's my God, it's just a whole diabolical nightmare.
Oh, I know. And yeah, don't get me started on that.
Exactly. Me too. Thank God we live in New Zealand where cows eat grass.
Yeah, exactly.
And walk in the mud.
Well, in America, the cows that eat grass is like an exclusive product.
Yeah.
You have to actually get a specific cow that's, products that has actually been grass-fed.
And being really passionate about permaculture and sustainable living, the cows that are force-fed these huge volumes of corn and they live on concrete pads, their waste is so toxic, they can't even put it on the plants. It just kills everything. It's just like turn everything into a desert. It's amazing.
Oh, have you seen Food.inc? Well,
No.
Oh, you won't eat a hamburger in America after watching that.
God, yeah. Jeez.
Oh, I'll have to lend you it. It's quite good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really good. That's got like Michael Pollan in it.
Some of the stuff going on, it just does not make sense. You think someone would just think, oh, gee, that's not a really good idea, even if we are getting rich off it and dominating the populace, but sooner or later. And it's just like the bees, I was just tweeting this morning that people are talking about CCD overseas and all of the causes of that, and I just see the bees as like it is to humanity as the canary is to the miner. If they start dying, you better pay attention because it's a fairly good indicator that your ecosystem's collapsing.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Organic beekeeping is the only way. It is the way of the future. Just like in Holland, all of the chemicals there are completely resistant now, and they've all had to go back to absolute organic origins because nothing works.
Oh, is this for varroa mites?
Yeah, for varroa.
Oh,
We've been using, the commercial guys have been using Baverol in New Zealand. I think it might be 14 years now.
Yeah.
And they've got definite resistance. And it's only a matter of time before they're completely resistant to all of the major products. And they can't keep inventing new chemicals. And, like that guy at Beekeeping, Scientific Beekeeping, he says,
Oh, Randy Oliver?
Yeah, Randy Oliver. Smart chemicals with dumb beekeepers, but at some point you've just got to break out of the status quo and start looking at the future of beekeeping objectively. And, organic beekeeping is just ridiculously difficult. We treat every 6 to 8 weeks and, depending on the temperature and the environment of whatever country you live in, it may or may not be as effective as it possibly could be. And for normal beekeeping guys, my advice is to immediately start following up every chemical treatment with an organic one. It's going to cost you a little bit more, but it's just, you just can't take the risk anymore.
No.
Like, we treat literally 10 times a year. Other guys are treating twice. Well, double your effort. It's no extra hassle. And whack in a thymol-based organic treatment, 6 weeks after you've finished treating with chemical, just as a backstop,
Yeah.
And it just breaks the mindset and gets them into the habit. And as the chemical efficiency fades, they'll be able to get into alternative treatments and just have broken through that old limited, we've done the same thing the whole time. I've tried to help guys in the South Island where varroa's going into invasion, like organic guys. They have just been in total denial, waited till they're in the middle of invasion phase, all their bees are dead, and I was like, mate, you should have been treating 8 months ago like you had full invasion varroa just to get into the mindset of actually doing it.
Get into the practices.
Because by the time you notice your hive's in trouble, it's over. And you get to a certain varroa loading and there is no coming back.
No.
So,
as soon as you can see varroa walking on the comb, it's usually all over, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a pretty good indication it's getting ugly. You get PMS coming and deformed wing virus and lots of dead bees outside the front of your hive. It's not a good look. And we can tell, we can open a hive and we can just feel them, how stressed they are with varroa. And if they're skittery, like if they're not in a nice, stable brood nest, they'll all be skittery all over the comb, and they'll all be like not quite knowing what to do, and you can just tell that they're actually getting hammered. And you know, when they're like that, if you're an organic beekeeper and you're in an invasion phase, man, start loading chemicals into your hive and go conventional, otherwise you won't have a business left.
Yeah, it's true. So what does your program look like? What sort of treatments do you use?
We use mainly AP Life VAR, but we're actually having to change the way we're using it because it's just so harsh. Yeah, it smashes hives.
Yeah.
Like, you could have a big stonking single brood box and put a full treatment in, and boy, depending on what time of the year, it could halve the volume of bees within 2 weeks. You come back 3 weeks and like, oh my god, where'd all the bees go? And my theory is they actually try and remove it from the hive. They actually use their mandibles to chew it up and take it out, and it's so toxic. All the bees that do that, it just kills them. Other hives will just put a skin of propolis over it and seal it up.
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
And other hives won't do anything to it. It'll just dry out and dry out.
And some hives, just the whole hive just beds out. I've seen that.
Oh, and yeah, then they'll start running around. You know, you'll come back and the brood nest will have gone over to the side, and you've got to centralise everything again.
Yeah.
So, it is really harsh.
I've seen some people put the little tablets and meshes, like, little plastic meshes.
Oh, yeah.
Not plastic, like steel meshes.
Okay.
And then they can't pull them out.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, so yeah.
I've actually even considered that, but I have never got around to inventing something and do it.
You get the aluminium mesh from like Mitre 10 and just put it around and staple it.
Right.
So it's like a little envelope.
Yep.
Yeah, give that a go.
Yeah.
But our bees often propolise it up. They put the wall around it.
Yeah, we're actually looking at now treating almost pretty much every time we go, but halving the dose. And because the mites theoretically can't build resistance to the thymol-based products, should be right.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's just too severe. But man, if you need to give a hive a good mite smashing, whack a block of AP Life VAR in there, it's deadly.
Yeah.
And then you've got the AP Guard gel as well. I haven't used it, but one of my mates uses it. He reckons it's good. He says it's much less harsh, and you can sort of like customise the dosage. And
yeah, I've heard mixed stories about it. Some people love it, and some people.
I haven't used it. It's a definite double treatment, whereas AP Life VAR isn't. And like, we couldn't actually get around to our hives every week and a half or every 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's the thing about being organic is a lot of the treatments involve a lot of sort of work. You've got to be there
huge amount of travel, and we're pretty much adjusting our brood nests and really going into the hives a lot in the build-up. We don't just leave them. We rotate boxes as the queen lays up from a first box, and we'll go into the second box. As soon as that second box is pretty much 3/4 laid up, we'll actually switch the boxes, otherwise they'll get choked with new bees, and then they'll start that swarming process. And if we get to a point where there's just too many bees, usually about 2 deep on the lid, you're like, got to split that hive today, or 2 weeks they'll have queen cells, and they start making that swarming process a long time before you actually notice it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we always run 2 boxes too, which is surprising in Northwood than one.
Oh, it's weird. But I think it also might be, because it's so much warmer up there, and just because it's so different, I think they're a lot more swarmy.
Yeah.
That's my theory, and I don't think the beekeepers are that meticulous in their beekeeping. They're pretty much just doing it.
Yeah, okay.
Whereas if you start off as a hobbyist and you get quite into it, you tend to over-molest your bees every week,
You do,
and if you finally get a feel for how they're working it, you can really make some amazing changes within the dynamic of the hive to really maximize production. Like, we produce between 60 and 80 kilos of Manuka honey per hive, whereas all the guys around us get 35. I'm like, well, okay, what am I doing differently? But it's just the mucking around. How you put the honey boxes on. There's a really good book. I can't even remember what it's called, but I remember the guy's names were Abibi. These 2 brothers. And they had the world record for making honey.
Oh, I've seen that.
That's a great book.
Almond or something.
Yeah, these two old school dudes.
I've read it, yeah.
And they had a theory, never open a beehive, if you're going to open it, it needs to be open for 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And they would have these huge stacks of boxes that they'd whack on, and they'd do them in this funny order. So you'd put your first honey box on, then you'd under-super that one.
That's right.
And then you'd stick your next box in at a certain, between the two, and then the next box, one down, and it had this really weird Fibonacci sequence of how they put the boxes on.
Yeah.
And the bees loved it, but
have you tried it?
Oh, yeah, I have my own version of it, because they have a different flow over there, really, really strong, intense, long flow.
Yeah.
Whereas, I tend to, I tend to try and move the more developed frames up higher and leave the more undeveloped frames just over the brood nest. And if you're wanting stuff drawn out, you can't have too many boxes on. Too many boxes on, the temperature drops, and the spatial condensing of the bees in the volume of the box isn't enough to really crack it off.
Yeah.
So you get to a point where you've got to have a hive massive enough to choke at least 4 to 5 boxes worth of bees. Yeah. And, sometimes we'll have 6 and 7 boxes on. We'd have 5 honey supers on some of them. Most of them, aren't fully drawn out. But,
yeah, because I've seen a school of thought in America where they actually put like 9 boxes on at the beginning of the season. It works for them, but I've never tried it here.
Well,
I've never seen anyone brave enough to do it.
If they did my method, I guarantee they'd probably get 9 boxes full. Yeah. But you'd never leave 9 boxes on the hive unless it was an absolute monster.
No, I think, I have done similar things with about 4 boxes, and they kind of tunnel up.
Yeah.
And all the outside ones aren't done, so you've got to keep manipulating them.
And the thing is, we run a lot of new frame, and, you're always interspersing drawn frame with undrawn frame, and then baiting up. You've got to bait up, especially that first box of the season, just when the honey flow's starting. Yeah. You've got to get them through the excluder. And some bees can be a bit shy, and if you haven't got the right volume, if the hives aren't strong enough, if you haven't got enough bees in the bottom brood box, they won't always go through the excluder.
No. And when you say bait up for our beginners, it's like you're putting like honey up there, aren't you?
Yeah, two open honey frames of freshly drawn honey right over the middle of the brood nest, and then interspace drawn and undrawn frames out from that. But you've also got to have the crowding in that bottom brood nest to force them through. And if they're suffering from varroa going into the flow, they won't always go through either. They'll be really reluctant. Yeah. And you use queen excluders? Yeah, we do. Okay. Yeah. We don't, but yeah. That's fine in a hobbyist, you can muck around, but when you're commercial, I don't know, there comes a point you just have to really keep the honey supers clean. You don't want to be mucking around with brood and pollen in them. Yeah. And particularly for a commercial guy, if you're selling Manuka honey because the bees won't eat Manuka pollen. Like, we'll be in massive Manuka fields and they'll be taking any other pollen they can get their hands on, and Manuka honey has a really low pollen count. And a lot of overseas buying criteria is on pollen count, whereas our bees, where we are, being in the North Island of New Zealand, particularly Coromandel, we have a most amazing Reba content in our native forest. And Reba is just the most beautiful pollen. They love it. That and gorse. Honey too, isn't it? Yep. Yeah. First box we always get off is usually a mix of Reba, but we haven't had a flow for the last 2 years. So I'm thinking this year we'll get a good flow of it. Yeah, we didn't get any this season, but the season before we got a bit. Yeah, we got a trickle last year. Yeah. But compared to like 4 or 5 years ago, you'd get a solid box of dark Reba off. And where we are, it comes on first. It's almost like toffee. Yeah. The Reba comes first, and then you usually get Kamahi, and then the Manuka comes on, and then the Kanuka finishes off. Some years it's all a bit mixed up. But once you're into it, you can just hold the frames up to the light and see what the colour is, and you can just smell and taste and know what it is. It's beautiful. Yeah. So you're using Epilife, and you're looking at the vaporising stuff as well? Yeah, we're definitely looking at the oxalic acid vaporising. Yeah. And we've actually bought our own thymol crystals, and we're developing our own thymol. I've been doing a lot of research for years as an alternative therapist with aromatherapy. Yeah. And I've devised a basic essential oil formula of about 13 oils, which we'll use in conjunction. But I just haven't had time to do all the beta testing of it.
Yeah.
So the basis of it is you've got to have plant-based thymol crystals, not synthetic, which is what AP Life are, is because the bees don't like it and it causes the queens to get rejected. So they'll really often supersede the queens. And you'd never ever stick an AP Life treatment in if you were trying to introduce a queen into a hive. She'd just get bald and spat out because it interferes with the pheromones.
Oh, okay.
So when we do our queen grafting and we've mated our queens, we won't put a treatment in until they've done a full 28-day lay after. Otherwise, they'll just get blitzed and you'll be back to square one and they'll make another queen and it's just it freaks them out. But with the plant-based thymol, it's much more acceptable. And we're going to... a friend of mine, he's got an organic approval for it as well. We're just going to put in for it. And using organic coconut fat as the base. Yeah. And you get a deep fat fryer and you liquefy a certain content of coconut fat. You put a specific amount of thymol in there to make the mix and whatever other essential oils. And then...
it's like a fondant, hey? Is it the kind of thing, that consistency? Like a big patty thing?
No.
Making?
No. And then you get these cheap, cleaning cloths from the warehouse. They're like Chuck's cloths.
Oh, yeah.
Like a dishclothy thing. Yeah. And you just dip that in and it soaks it up.
Yeah.
And the bees don't eat that thing. And the difference is from the solid coconut fat, just putting the thymol crystal in it causes it to not go back into solid fat form again.
Okay, so it keeps it liquid.
So it keeps liquid. Yeah. And it's just soaked in the sponge. It's quite stable. And you can just make it and store it in like a biscuit tin, a big steel biscuit tin. And you just go along and bang them in your hives. And they cost about 50 cents to make rather than $5 for a ball one. And they're better.
Wow, that sounds good. Have you done experiments with this yet?
Yeah, I've got a friend who's been running the system for 3 years.
Yeah.
I just hadn't got around to putting my approval in for organic approval. You've got to do that. Being organic, they're so anal retentive. You've got to do everything by the book, and you can't dare introduce any new processes. And I'm really excited about the hop organic.
Hop guard stuff.
Yeah, about that for varroa treatment. I'm thinking that's the go because. Remember Andy Oliver saying that was really good, but trying to get new products approved for New Zealanders.
Tell me about it with the Midway thing. It's taking forever.
Exactly.
It probably will be this season, but
Probably.
We said that last year, but
well, Bayer's making lots of money and giving backhanders to the government for payroll. I'm sure it'll be a bit slower than it could have been.
I'm glad you said that. Not me. Yeah, it's
in
true.
My fantasy world.
No, it's yeah, they do seem a bit hard. It's taking a while to get approved. Better than our flight anyway. But
maybe you better cut that
bit. That's all cool. Yeah, because so are they bringing hop garden here? Do you know?
Well, they're trying.
Okay, that would be useful.
Yeah.
I think they should try and bring lots of different things in.
I think so too, because the variability and opportunity is really limited, particularly for user-friendly chemicals.
Yeah.
Like oxalic acid, as you know, deadly.
Yeah.
Formic acid, bad. Yeah. And upsets the drones, makes them infertile, no good for using for mating, and you can easily fry your hive with it. And it's just messy. It's just not in a really nicely deliverable system. Although there are some, I heard there was a gel suspended formic acid.
Yeah, that's the Monoway one.
Yeah.
It's like a gel pack.
It's got to be easy to use. Mucking around with bits of rope and chemical
mixing,
gloves and spraying
acid and stuff. It's not good for hobbyists.
Whereas a hops impregnated wafer, it's just like your homebrew. You probably put your homebrew beer kit afterwards. You have a honey flavour. It'd be awesome.
You probably could. I have had honey beer. It's not too bad.
Yeah. Break it.
The problem with honey, it makes everything taste like honey, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which is good, but not when you're drinking beer.
Yeah.
Have you tried the whiskey and honey? It tastes like honey.
Well, I'll tell you what. I've got the world's only distilled spirit.
Oh, yes.
Pure Manuka Honey.
Talk about
you want to have a go?
Yeah,
I'll give you
another one. Yeah.
I'll give you a sniff because it's fairly deadly. It's I think it's 190 proof
Is this the one that you've made? Or?
Yeah, this will put hairs on your chest.
Okay.
I took it to my Scotch whisky tasting the other night. The boys were most impressed.
Yeah.
But it's not really drinkable. Just, you can put a bit on your tongue, but smell the nose, smell the honey in that.
Oh, yeah.
I've got to dilute it to whiskey strength. It's fairly vicious at the moment. It's medicinal. I think they're utilising it to make organic propolis tinctures and things like that.
Yeah, it's got a bite to it,
It's got a bite, but it's nice, eh?
It is. Because we should also say that Paul's got a mead
meadery, yes. Sting mead. It's the only organic active Manuka honey mead in the world.
Yep.
And it's a pretty stunning product.
And so, are you actually exporting the mead overseas? Or?
No, we aren't at the moment. We're actually looking for an investment into the company. We're looking for 2 or 3 million to actually build a full-scale meadery and organic processing facility.
Yeah.
It's something we've been looking at for a while, but to really break into the overseas market, you've got to have economies of scale, and we'd be huge volumes of meat. It just go really, really well in the Asian market, but you've got to have the volume.
Yeah, you've got to have the product behind you. Okay. Oh, well, if anyone out there's got that sort of money,
yeah, the money's ridiculous.
Yeah, because, no, it'd be good. Do you export the honey to overseas?
Yes, we don't sell any of our product in New Zealand.
Yeah.
We export 100%. The New Zealand market's it's not discerning enough, and there's too much cheap quality honey, and people just don't have a passion for organics here, which seems really ridiculous. We're this clean, green country, but they couldn't give a crap. Whereas Taiwan, Korea, Singapore, my God, these people just cannot get enough organic material.
Yeah.
France and Germany are big on organic. Nowhere else. Just they haven't clicked on, even China hasn't clicked on organic yet.
Yeah, I think Manuka's popular in China, right? But not organic.
Yeah, UMF Manuka, Combeck have done a fantastic marketing strategy. However many years there, it's all they understand in China is plus Manuka honey. That's great, but, as we know, anything over 10 plus is not good to eat. It destroys all your intestinal flora and really should only be used for topical use, but the prestige of eating 25 plus honey, as well as drinking a glass of fresh milk at night time and having a $500 bottle of red wine downed by the shot glass. It's all about it's all about cultural pretentiousness, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so.
But great, if you've got the money.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So how are your bees getting on? Because you're obviously checking them quite often, so they all going good?
Oh, they're massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ange was just out this week having to put second brood boxes on because the splits we made this season are boiling over 3 deep on the lid. It's the middle of winter. You'd think it was spring.
Yeah, they are starting to pull back.
And we've got double brood boxes boiling over. We're going to have to actually start splitting in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's why we're building boxes as well.
Got a whole lot of overwintered queens, and we'll just have to split and introduce new queens just to save the hives from swarming. As soon as it's warm enough, we'll actually have to start doing some grafting and just split hives and put queens in them to get them through to a point where they're close enough to the flow that they can build up into a full production volume hive.
Yeah.
And not swarm. But we run Italians from the old David Yonke strain, which Franz Lars from Better Bees is also picked up.
Yeah.
And man, they are absolute laying machines. Like, we're kind of a bit grateful this year. We did a lot of wild matings, and they've gone a bit dark. There must be some wild carny drones doing their thing.
Yeah.
But the good thing is they actually had a little bit of a slow down right in the middle of winter there. Well, about 6 weeks ago. And my God, it was great. We actually got a treatment in there and dropped a few mites, whereas normally it's just such a great volume of brood all year round.
Yeah.
You really struggle to keep on top of it with organics. You've got to be really fastidious, but it's not like you ever get enough mites out of the cells to be able to drop them off the bees. It's a continual process. So now we're just treating every time now in a half dose, and it's not enough to really upset or completely cripple the hive, which is what normally happens with these organic treatments.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't. We don't have a breeders' period this one, do we?
Yeah, unless you're running.
Yeah, so was that before David went into the Carniolians then? Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was the Mr. Italian.
Yeah, because he sort of changed over a few years back, didn't he?
Once you go black, you can never go back.
So I hear, yeah.
So that is that.
This is it. And so what's one thing that you wish you knew now before you started beekeeping? Oh, when you started beekeeping.
One thing I wish I knew now.
You wish you knew about half-size frames.
I wish
boxes.
I would wish I had known how the next season was going to go, and I could have adjusted to suit. We've had a couple of really strange seasons, like 2 years ago was an absolute dud. We never got hardly any honey at all.
Yeah.
It was a complete loss. It was the first time in history it had ever happened. So,
that was the season before last season, eh? Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, we got hardly any as well.
A lot of people think beekeeping is some romantic, quick fix.
Oh.
It's dirty, hard work. And it's
really
miserable at times.
Yeah,
it is rewarding. It's wonderful to work with bees. And it's lovely to work for yourself and have a stunning drive to work. But when it's pissing down and you're moving hives in the middle of the night and you're stuck in the mud and you've got so much work to do and you can't stop until it's done.
And your back's gone out. And
yeah, it's character building.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think's the biggest issue facing beekeeping today then?
I really do
in your area anyway.
In my area, really overcrowding in my area.
Other beekeepers, you mean?
Yeah, in New Zealand, I think all over New Zealand, a lot of people are looking at it as an alternative career move now, and there's a lot of new people coming in, and there is a lot of competition for space, and it does get difficult in that sort of sense, but I think that's just par for course with any competitive business model. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in Northland where there's a lot of money involved, and potential harvests from high quality Manuka sites are causing beekeepers to act inauthentically and, in self-interest and do some radical things, and it's just pretty silly, but,
Oh, yeah, well, we've had hives vandalised, haven't we, up there?
Oh, poisoned and
stolen.
Yeah, and thrown off cliffs.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, I've heard all sorts of things.
Oh, Jesus.
Crazy stuff, and people coming in and trying to... And the other dynamic is a lot of beekeepers are now trying to pay farmers for the privilege of putting their bees on their farm, whereas traditionally it's always been a win-win. You put your bees on someone's farm, they'll make honey, you give them honey, and they'll pollinate all of their flowers and put nitrogen back into the soil through fixing it through the clover and this sort of stuff. And it's always been a great thing, but now it's turning into a commercial business. There's so much money involved, and there's a lot of people doing huge, big deals overseas, and they're just, I don't know, it's just turning into a greedy monster.
Yeah, it's sad, that it's going that way.
Yeah, but as with all things, it'll find its own medium and it'll work itself out. But I think on a global scale, it's actually the monoculture of the commercial bee keeping practice. Overseas, you see them just continually moving bees from one site to the other. Pollination. I think pollination's destructive. It's great for the trees, but it's not great for the bees, who are literally being taken advantage of and their lives disrespected. I don't feel that you can continually uproot a beehive and not have a huge amount of stress that those bees are continually under. These almond pollination drives you see in America, and they make orange honey, but it's only because of the orange monoculture of the trees there. It's not a natural process. And
I think that's the thing. They're not getting that balance of different ingredients.
They've got to have natural pollens. They've got to be eating natural honey and it's almost like an autoimmune deficiency for bees through lack of nutrient and lack of stability in their environment. They navigate geomagnetically. They bond to the earth. They bond to the magnetic planes of wherever they are, and that's how they roll. And continually moving them just must be horrific. I don't move my bees at all if I have to. I don't do pollination.
No, I don't.
Which is great because there's no organic orchards anyway. But for me, it's just not something I'm willing to do. It's worth a bit of money for the people who do it, but I'd rather just leave them on site. And after generation and generation of bees on one site, they do kind of they settle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your focus is generating honey as well, isn't it? It's
Absolutely.
Not about pollination.
No, pollination's just an income stream, and people treat bees just as a commodity. They, some beekeepers are like old cattle farmers, really gentle, loving souls.
Yeah.
Others are just commercial rip and shit,
Yeah.
They're just a disposable commodity.
Yeah. They
start 500 hives. Oh, no worries. Just make some more.
Yeah, it's a different mindset.
It's a whole different mindset.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It's like a business. Well,
yeah.
I mean, it has to be a business, but not to the expense of your livestock, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there needs to be and the monoculture overseas of, force-feeding bees antibiotics to mask symptoms of disease.
Yeah.
Force-feeding them high fructose corn syrup. It's, that's like feeding someone Burger King every day or McDonald's forever and sweet fizzy drinks and expecting them to perform.
Yeah.
You get a sniff of a flu, you've got no immune system, you just crash, and that's what the beehives are doing. And then on top of that, you've got all the GM pollen and toxic neonicotinoids or whatever they are, and all this other stuff. There is a huge, just a collective glyphosate.
Yeah.
And even worse is the wetting agents that they put in it. Wetting agents will just kill a bee without even spraying it with spray.
Yeah.
And the most toxic thing to a bee is just dishwater in a squirty bottle. Just drop them dead.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, neonicotinoids, apparently it's like, if you put three drops in a swimming pool, it's enough to kill a bee. That's the actual proportions that go enough to kill a bee.
Yes, it's like a neurological confusion. They just can no longer orientate.
Their nervous system, and they can't work out where they live.
And the funny thing is, as soon as a bee gets slightly sick, like you might even notice there's anything wrong with it, but they notice, and they're such a collective organism that they will just shed bees without even. There's not like, oh, Fred's not feeling well, we're just going to boot him out. They don't even seem to notice, and the whole ecosystem will just empty from the inside out as the bees get sick.
Yeah.
They just go away because they're no longer useful to the hive. Yeah,
they're like elephants.
Yeah.
They fly away and don't come back. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a change on a global scale, but it no doubt is as it's meant to be, but it can't continue on. And as soon as there's no bees left for all of these huge big monocultures, well then they'll think, oh, we should have done something 20 years ago, but oops.
Well, I think the almond thing's already suffering, isn't it? They haven't got enough at the moment. So.
Like you look at how many bees Canada buys from New Zealand every year. I don't know how much. I don't know the exact figures. I think it's like around 50% or 60% of their bees they lose every year. They lose 50% of their bees. What? I lose 1% of my bees, and that's bad. How do you kill 50% of your bees?
What's the reason for that? Is it the cold, or
I don't know what they do. They just all die. It's a result of how they're running their businesses, I think. So every year they buy packaged bees from New Zealand, and they buy zillions of them. And then just whack them all into nukes, and they build them up for the season, feed them toxic syrup, and then, half of them died.
Half of them are dying.
Yeah.
Well, I actually spoke to an organic beekeeper from Quebec in Canada last Monday night.
Yep.
Robin, which is coming out soon, everyone.
Fantastic.
Anyway, and he never loses hives.
Yeah, exactly.
Through winter, and so everyone's following what he's doing now. So.
And you look in the old days when they're in wherever places freeze to total frozenness over in the States and they'd put them in the cellar over winter. They just lock them in their hive and whack them in the cellar, and most of them would survive.
Well, he's got a hive in his lounge. Yeah. His wife's very understanding.
Fantastic.
And Yeah, but they get -40 where he's from.
Yeah,
And they're okay. And he uses mesh boards as well, doesn't seal them up.
great.
It's quite, so
Yeah.
it's quite interesting guy to talk to.
See, once they're in a brood nest, it's like penguins on the ice.
Yeah.
As long as they're healthy and they've got a good body fat level, like you've got fat bees and you've got skinny, unhealthy bees, and
Yeah.
if they're a good fat bee and they're new, they'll go through winter and they'll just rotate. As the ones that the outside get cold, they'll come into the centre and warm up, and as long as they've got food, they're just a machine.
Well, there's a misconception that the bees actually heat the whole thing up like a human. You know, they've got like a space heater in there or something. That's not how it works, is it? It's basically like a big cluster and they just rotate around.
Yeah, you put your hand into the cluster, it's really hot.
Yeah.
You take your hand out, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good analogy of the penguins, because they do the similar thing where they keep rotating around the crowd, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
You got anything else you want to bring up there?
No, I think we've had a good yarn.
Yeah.
Slightly different perspective.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So what's your plans for next year in the bee season? Are you going to expand anything? Or?
Yeah, we're going to expand massively. It's just a matter of cash flow, really.
Yeah.
As you know, one beehive's quite expensive and time-consuming labour-wise to construct. So if you want to build 1,000, set aside 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. I see you got a nail gun you were telling me about before, so that's good.
Yep.
I'll save a lot of time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not staple gun, nail gun.
Yeah.
Doing rough galvanised nails, which really grips into the wood.
Yeah.
And we use finger-jointed pine as well. We don't use rebated.
Yeah.
So with the finger joints, you've got like 40 nails in the honey super. And, we've seen nails fall off a pallet and just all bounce on the ground. We've seen other guys fall off a pallet and they'll just like smash into pieces.
Yeah.
It's really ugly when they're full of honey.
Yeah. Oh, they're good. They're good. It's a good idea.
Yeah, and definitely wax dipping them as well. They'll last for 40 years rather than 7. Use good quality pine.
Oh, do you paraffin wax them or something?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no.
Oh, that's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we just linseed all ours, but it's kind of like a yearly thing.
Oh, man, you should have come over. I've just been out there doing it for the last couple of weeks.
Oh, okay. You've got a big wax dipper.
Oh, yeah, it's just at the front door. They'll show you on the way out.
We'll put some photos in the show notes of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That's a beast. You do it about 90 degrees is the ultimate temperature.
Yeah.
And just whack all your whack all your box parts in there, whatever you want, for about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
40 minutes, 45 minutes, and it just soaks it up. And they come out nice and hot, and then they dry off on their own.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Sort of a bit beyond commission, sort of hobbyist people, but isn't it? Having a melter.
Yeah. I suppose it is really, but, a lot of people do it just because it works so well.
Oh, yeah, it's good. Oh, well, thanks for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome.
It's been awesome.
Yeah.
So thanks, Paul.
Thanks for your time, Gary.
Okay, cheers.